Man.
Doing very well,
hmm
sir. Very well.
All
Good to
right,
see
all
you
right.
tonight.
Brother, I tell you, it's been a struggle, but I got you
Understood.
big time.
We're on the air. Go right ahead, kind sir.
Okay, right on. Well, welcome. Welcome to the Writers Workshop. It's good to see everybody out and about and doing good things all throughout the day. It's that time of the year. Folks are getting in gear for the season. Remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. Come on now. Anyhow, and I'm so glad that my sister's back. So good to see you again.
Thank you so much for
And
having
enjoyed you on the show. Hope you enjoyed the interview we did with you on Channel 21.
I did. Thank you so very much. I enjoyed it and then learned a lot from the other two speakers. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, y'all. That your interview actually will be airing this coming Sunday. You were our first guest, right? So yeah, you'll air this coming Sunday. It's really early, 6 a.m. But what we do is a lot of people see it, and then what we'll do is we'll put it up on Facebook and keep it moving, and that kind of thing. So be sure to use it as well. Share it out to as many people as you can. All
Thank you.
right. Would you like to introduce yourself to the folks who don't know you, who you are?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Sally Johns, and thank you all for having me. And I look forward to hearing your stories.
All right, very good. So I'm going to grab my glasses, Sally. I'm seeing nothing. No, I'm okay. I do need to grab my reading glasses, but I will say that I didn't get a chance to really push it out tonight the way we normally do, saying that this is the second phase of our 100 poets reading. But those of you know, you should know that we're in our second phase. We had a wonderful time last week. A lot of people came on. We didn't have a whole lot of people, but the ones who came on did a fantastic job, and it was great. So if you would like to be a poet who reads tonight, or even just an author, I know there's a lot going on in the areas all throughout our community. I know, especially where you are too. I'm sure there's a lot going on. But if you want to get on, you can come to the Writers Workshop by Zoom, and the ID number is 892-0036-3152. Again, that's 892-0036-3152. And then the passcode is 479464. 479464. We'll be on from now until 9 o'clock, and each person gets at least 5 minutes to read, and then we do a round robin. We keep on smoking, and I will have another person coming on tonight, a guest who will come on and join us, and also we'll have some videos as well. But this is the Writers Workshop. We come on every single Friday night from 7 to 9 here on The Voice, 1704 Harrisburg. And we hope that you will join us every Friday night that you can. And by the way, don't forget that tomorrow, and forgive my voice, tomorrow we're kicking off our annual Kwanzaa celebration. It's a pre-Kwanzaa celebration because, as you know, Kwanzaa is celebrated from December the 26th through January 1st. And so we've created this thing here in the Harrisburg area where we have a pre-Kwanzaa celebration, usually around the second Saturday in December. And it's always been a wonderful turnout. It's a great program. And I was just up there. In fact, I'm running in right now from the site. It's going to be at Camp Curtin Academy, which is Camp Curtin School, right off of 6th and Division Street. And it goes from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. And we have a lot of great activities. We're giving out some awards through Life Esteem. My wife, every year for the last 30 years or more, has given out these awards. And we have some outstanding people, at least 8, that will be honored again this year. And we hope that you'll come up for that. That's going to take place around 1 o'clock. We have a stilt walker who is also an outstanding storyteller, Mafelda Thomas, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And she's going to come in and do what she does. We love Mafelda. She does a great job for us, and she'll be on around 12 noon. We also have our MC, the Reverend Dr. Dred Perky Scott. And if you have never heard him sing, then you are missing out on a real treasure. The brother is incredible. He's an incredible, singer, gospel singer, jazz singer, and also a tremendous minister as well. But the Reverend Dr. Dred Perky Scott will be our MC. And also we have, of course, Andrea Fulton and the ABW Productions, the wonderful fashion show that they do every year. It's really like the highlight of our pre-Kwanzaa celebration. That's going to start around 3 o'clock. We also have, of course, the Winneman African Dance Company, and actually not company, it's community, African Dance Community with Lark Daniels. We also have a lot of outstanding poets, such as Wendy Noche Onye, Ro Brady, Edward Daniels, and many, many others who will be coming through. Maria Chow, and I'm talking about some of the best around. They're really good. And so they'll be there as well. And of course, we have vendors galore. People are still signing up even today. We have vendors signing up for tomorrow's program. It's a free program. We hope that you'll come out and enjoy yourself. We're going to have food, a children's corner. We have all kinds of stuff donated for us, to us. And we have a wonderful DJ, and of course, the brother, Brian Dupree, who's always with us. My brother knows how to spin it. So we're really going to have a good time, and we hope you'll bring your whole family out, okay? All right, again, it's tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Camp Curtin Academy, which is 2900 North 6th Street, but it's really right at the corner of 6th and Division, and you come on to the side where we park, and we're going to be in the gym, and, it's going to be a great program. So having said all that, we'll tell you about other programs coming up as well, because we do have something special for next week as well, and that is a dynamic sister coming in who's an outstanding painter and poet, and she also has her PhD, and she is a Delta, and she's coming in to do some wonderful work. But we're also honoring 8 women, dynamic women of the arts, who will be honored as well along with that program. Again, that's a free program at the State Museum of Pennsylvania. I don't know if I'm gonna make it tonight. My voice is going down. What can I tell you? But Sally, tell us what's going on with you.
Okay, I'm currently working on my very first book, just doing a little bit of editing, and hopefully it'll be out within the next 6 to 9 months. I'm excited about that.
Well, you really broke down. Since we're the only ones on right now, and I don't think anybody else is on. Let's talk a bit about the subject matter that you talked about on what was that Wednesday that you came in, right? Yeah, Wednesday. And so it's about epilepsy. And I'm telling you, you really broke that down. It's a very educational piece, a lot that I learned. But your book is about epilepsy. So tell people what your book is all about.
Okay, well, personally, I have epilepsy. I was a passenger in a car accident in 1996, and a few years later, I started having seizures. They were giving me the wrong medicine for a very long time, which worsened my medical condition.
Yeah.
I actually have the type of condition that I should not have been taking any of those medications.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm living with the vagal nerve stimulator that is implanted in my chest, so that if I do have a seizure, we can swipe it. It can help end the seizure.
Nice. Yeah. Do you carry that with you all the time?
Yes, I do. And I have several of them in my house, just in case if I was to have one and my son was to see me have one, he'll know where to grab them. But anywhere I go, I should have my bracelet. I keep the bracelet on all the time. And just those are so dangerous.
Yeah, boy. Mm-hmm. You told us a lot of things. One, you said you just kind of let the person be. You don't turn them over and all that kind of stuff until break some of that down again, the do's and don'ts.
Okay, well, when someone is having a seizure and you're witnessing it, you do not want to restrain them. You do not want to place anything in their mouth, and you would like to move anything that can harm them, such as if they're by a glass table or if there's rocks or anything around. And you always want to try to put something soft near them. And when the seizure is done, you would like to turn them on their side. That way their body can kind of rest. And no, you will not be able to swallow your tongue. You just don't want to restrain them because that's going to hurt them even more.
Wow.
And it's a neurological condition. It's not a mental illness. And that's one thing in our community. People assume that it's a mental illness or the person has done drugs or they're on alcohol. No, it's a medical condition.
Right. Wonderful. And also, you mentioned that there's some foods that can contribute or stress that can bring it on.
Yes, stress can cause it. Hormonal changes can cause it. Some foods can cause it. And also, if someone was to have a stroke, a few years later, they might also start having seizures.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's so much that we have to learn. I was seeing something on Facebook today with Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, and he was talking about the cleansing of vessels and how important that is for your overall health in terms of fighting diseases and stuff. He said so many of us have clogged vessels, clogged arteries. You mentioned cholesterol being, one of the major contributors to strokes and seizures and stuff like that. Do you know much about that?
I do. And another thing is a lot of the foods that we eat. And a lot of our people in our community, they like to eat fried foods and then a lot of heavy foods.
Yeah.
Well, when you do have medical conditions, you have to eat a little bit healthier. Eat lots more green vegetables. You should start boiling your foods and then grilling your food, because the oils do cause a lot of harm to our body.
Yeah. And what oils are good? Is olive oil good for you or not?
Olive oil is good for you. Vegetable oils are pretty good for you.
Okay.
Avocado. Just, we don't want a lot of the what is those that they used to fry stuff with? A lot of thick grease. Oils
lard, and all that stuff. Yeah. Back in the day, people were frying everything with lard. And now I don't think lard is even on the shelves anymore, is it?
No, that's very dangerous. And then a lot of our people, we were just kind of misinformed. So
and a lot of it was due to our enslavement period, where we had to simply make do with what we had,
Yes.
And then we got used to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, unbelievable. So I hope that one day I think you're already doing some community forums where people will come and learn more, about, do you call epilepsy? Do you call it the disease? How do you describe it?
I do. I call it a disease. It is a neurological medical condition, so it is definitely a disease, and it can change over the time. But it's not something that, say, a lot of people get afraid when they see someone have a seizure. They think that it's contagious. It's not.
Yeah.
And you cannot catch it by sitting by someone or hugging them. It's just we have to share things like that with individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And unbelievable. And you oftentimes don't even look for it. You don't know. And one thing that struck me is when you first started talking about, let's say, your condition, sometimes you just start staring off into space. And that's really, the first signs, I guess, of you having a seizure. And a lot of people don't realize that, that happens. People freeze and they have that seizure. We were at a banquet, I think it was an NAACP banquet, and one of our friends, his mother she's over 100 now. She's like 102, I believe. And she all of a sudden just froze. And she must have been having a seizure because, she was just totally frozen. And they called the ambulance and everything, and they're trying to, and then she kind of came out of it, and right before the ambulance got there. But he said that had happened before. And I never thought of that as a seizure, but I guess that's what it was.
Yes, that's a stairway seizure where you kind of just black out and the person might be talking to me, but I really don't hear you.
Yeah.
And I can't respond to you. I'm just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
That would happen. And I would be at work a lot of the times when that would happen. And sometimes I would wake up and my pants or something would be wet.
Yeah.
And people would notice that I had wet myself. And say if I was on my way home, because after you do have a seizure, you can't drive for like 6 months, sometimes a year.
Wow.
I catch public transportation going to work and then wake up to officers or people around me. So they assume, well, you must be drunk or you must be on something, and they want to arrest you. And that's not always the case. You need to call the paramedics to see if I'm okay, just in case I'm going to have another seizure.
I had an episode of a member of our family, in fact, and she, she has diabetes. And so her blood sugar dropped dangerously low to like 20 or something like that. And so she ended up just driving. And while she was driving, she had blacked out. And so she had no idea where she was or anything. And these people noticed her, so they followed her. And they said it was amazing that she didn't hit anything. She was swerving all over the place. And they were like, is she drunk? They thought maybe she was drunk or so. So when she just came to a stop, they said literally she must have just taken her foot off the pedal and she just kind of eased right into an area. And she was laying back and she was talking out of her head. And so they looked into her purse and they, called the number. And it was our daughter that they called. And then we were together because we were doing a program. And so she said, this is what happened. So, I said immediately, let them know, if the police are coming. They said, well, we called the police. They said, let them know that she's diabetic. And so they immediately sprang into action and they had the, ambulance come. And the ambulance immediately took her sugar and everything. They said she's down to 20. And they said had she dropped any lower, it would have really been, So, but if people don't know your medical condition, they might assume, that that she was drunk or whatever. And yeah, you never know. Never know. One story that was a really horrible story. I was asked to pick up a gentleman who had been in prison for a number of years, and he was way out past Pittsburgh. So I go out and I pick him up, and we talk and everything. And he started telling me all about his history and different things going on. And he was someone who had seizures, and
Okay.
so he comes back and he seemed to be doing fairly well. And he pretty much, I think he might have had a stroke. But anyhow, he goes into a store down on Cameron Street, and he begins to feel funny. And he says something to the store owner, and then he starts slurring his words and everything. And the store owner just assumed that he was on drugs or something. So they called the police. Police come and, check him out. And he's trying to tell them that he's not doing well. Something's going on. They end up arresting him. He had just gotten out of prison, not within months, and they realized that he was on probation or something like that. He goes back into prison for another 5 years. And it took them weeks to realize this man had had a stroke. Weeks. It wasn't like, and I mean, he was in pretty bad shape. And it's like, how could y'all miss that? How could you not know that this man was, and it's just unbelievable how stuff like that can happen. So it is very serious, and more people need to be trained to know what to do. Even the police, right?
Yes, that's true. That's what's in my book as well, because
Okay.
I ended up going through something like that. I had to work as my own attorney for 2 years, but not accept the other one that they wanted to present to me. Went to the hospital to get my device checked, and they assumed that I was on some type of drug or mentally ill. That's not the case. Like the doctors told them, she is not mentally ill. She is not on drugs or alcohol. She's been sick for quite some time, and she's here to get her device situated. She's in a lot of pain. Well, I had my child with me. So we're going to take your child away from you. We're going to take you to the mental ward. And the doctors told them not to move me. So again, I worked as my own attorney while going to college.
Wow.
I beat them. I had my son, went ahead and graduated from college. It was ridiculous that I had to go through that.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Wow. Hello. Hey, there she goes. Okay. Hey, Sister Samet George. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
How are you guys?
Listen, this is Sally Johns and this is Samet George. And the two of you need to know each other. You both have incredible stories to tell.
Hi, Sally.
Hello, how are you? And I love your necklace.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. We were just talking, Samet. Sally was just on our show this past week. We taped and she'll be, her show will air, the interview will air this coming Sunday. Samet was on our show about maybe, a month ago or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was aired. And also you may have seen her face as her commercial is everywhere. And they run that commercial, and I mean, it is well done. And also she has a lot of print ads as well of her. So you want to tell us, Samet, do you want to tell Sister Sally a little bit about your story?
Well, basically about 14 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and stage 4 brain cancer. This was shortly after I had a cough that wouldn't go away, and I went to the doctors and they started running some tests and diagnosed me with that illness and pretty much told me that it was not reversible, curable, or survivable. And I pretty much had 6 weeks or 6 months to live. And they told me to start preparing. And one of the first things I did to prepare was got together with my church and my friends and family. And my pastor set up a fast for us. And we did some fasting and praying. And God showed up and showed out. And in my case, showed off. And he actually spoke to me with a real voice. He said, Sam, this is not about you. It's all about me. I need to use you to let my light shine through, to be a beacon, to draw others to my kingdom. There are too many who do not believe I'm still on the throne and in the miracle-making business. I need to use you. So from that point, we just started moving forward. There were a lot of doctors and people who were not on board. In fact, when I told them that I wasn't going to accept that into my spirit and that I believed that God was going to heal me, they wanted me to see a psychologist. They thought I was in denial. And I just held tight. I said I was standing on those promises, and eventually all the doctors at UPMC got on board with me because they saw that what was going on within me was pretty much out of their control. And we went from last year, me having everything from a craniotomy to a spine surgery to just probably about 7 months ago, them taking half my lung. And through it all, I just healed pretty much overnight and was sent home, left the hospital, went straight to the Giant, got my prescription, did some grocery shopping, and went home and cooked dinner. And it's just kind of moved that way for me. And then I was reported to so many, to the marketing team by doctors and nurses of being this person who refused to give up, refused to die, refused to cave in, refused to listen to the report. And after speaking to the marketing team, we went from them wanting me to put a testimony on the webpage to them wanting me to put a video with the testimony to finally sitting down with the marketing team in Pittsburgh and them deciding that they confirmed everything that I told them had happened and decided they wanted to do a full-fledged campaign. And so now I'm part of their life-changing medicine campaign. So you may have seen the commercial. I haven't seen everything. Every day someone just about calls me and says, I saw a bus or I saw a billboard. I think Nate, you were probably the one who told me I was in the NAACP Freedom Dinner program.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Husband's friend, a friend who plays golf, and said I went in and your wife's picture was on a poster at a golf course. So there's been a thing around it, and it's just my story on faith. Pretty much just trying to speak out and let people know that there's another report, and faith is a powerful thing. If you don't know about it, you should learn about it.
And your name of your book is?
Oh, yes. And through that all, I was quarantined for about 6 months and didn't know what to do with my time. And God asked me to, he spoke to me, told me to write a book. And I know nothing about book writing. The most I've ever done in high school was wrote a book report. I wasn't even the best English student. In fact, I told Nate so many times, my husband Curtis said, we need to reach out to them. And it was my plan to reach out to him and Pat and try to join you guys and get some help with writing a book. But before I could even do it, God said, I got you. So I tell people all the time, I didn't write that book, God did. So the book is called Few Are Chosen. It's an honor to be selected by God. And it's been doing pretty well. It's only been probably 2 months that the book went live. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Apple Books. And it's been doing very well.
I look forward to reading it. I love to read. I'm so happy to hear your story because I'm another one to let them know. God has my back.
Tell us a bit about your story.
Okay, well, I actually have epilepsy. I was a passenger in a car my great-grandmother was driving in 1996. I woke up in the hospital. So now I have epilepsy. They were giving me the wrong medicines, and I'm allergic to those medications. I went from having the blank stare seizures to grandma's seizure. Now I have a pacemaker in my chest. It's called the vagal nerve stimulator. And I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep on going, and I'm teaching people in my book what epilepsy is, also teaching them that those medicines are very dangerous, teaching our people and everyone else who wants to learn the type of foods to eat, what herbs that can heal our bodies.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. That's one thing I've learned through my journeys, that the things that we go through in life are really not for us. These challenges and struggles are really so we can help somebody else along the line, and we can show them that we can get through it. We can do it. And if God does it for us, then he'll do it for them. So I totally understand where you're coming from. There's something about not caving in. There's something about a faith, about believing in yourself, believing in the people around you who believe in you, believing in your community who supports you, and just number one, just believing.
Yes.
So, one of the things that comes to my mind is this wonderful play that was off Broadway for years called 65 and Kicking. Vi Higgins, who was an outstanding, producer of plays, African-American sister years ago, came with this concept. She took real people, put them on the stage, and had them do this play. And folks thought this was just a play, but everybody on that stage was telling their real story. And the stories were so moving. I mean, literally, people were sitting there crying. It brought me to tears. A couple of them did, because it's just like, that really happened. And it was off Broadway. She could have moved it probably to Broadway, but it was so authentic, being right there in Harlem where, she had it. And I can see both of your stories and others coming together. And just telling, I mean, in a very dramatic way. Storytelling is so powerful. That's why I'm so glad both of you are writing books about your experience. Because as you said, Samet, you know, you're
Well,
blessing others. This is.
I just turned 65 last week, so if that play was still running, I probably could be in it.
Right.
Well, you know what? And I said 65 is 55, 55 and kicking. You could have been in it. Yeah, 55 and kicking. That's the name of it.
Okay.
And in fact, she tried to take it nationally, and you know, and it was okay, but it didn't resonate as much as it did in New York. When I first heard about it, it was actually on 60 Minutes. And the reason why they had it on 60 Minutes is because the kind of stories you're telling right now, real stories about real people really did overcome something, you know? Yeah, both of you fighters, no question about it, fighters. And God is using both of you, you know. So this is good. So let's talk about the whole process of writing a little bit. And you know, let's start with you know, Sally, when you first were approached about writing your book, what was your biggest concern and how did you decide, okay, this is going to happen? So tell us a bit about your journey of writing, and then I'm going to ask Samet to do the same thing.
Okay, well, in 2007, a neurologist actually asked me to write a book. He said, "You've been through so much. You've taught yourself so much. Will you please write a book to help educate others?" He said, "I've gone to college for 6 years and you taught all yourself, yourself all this information." And he couldn't believe it because I also would not allow the staff at the hospital in another state to chop my leg off. After I was in the hospital for quite some time, I ended up getting a blood clot. And the lady said, "You'll never walk again." I say, "No, you need to get out of here. I'm going to learn how to walk. God is going to help me. You're not taking my leg away from me."
Right.
And when the neurologist saw that, he said, you've been through so much, falling out in the middle of the road, not giving up on yourself, being told that you can no longer work at this place from you having seizures, just not giving up on yourself, learning what foods to eat. He said, "If you could just teach so many other people." I said, "I will teach them." And I waited a little bit. I had to learn a little bit more about different herbs that people can eat to help improve their health. And now just the other things that I've been through. I said, I need to teach other people because people are just hurting right now. More people are getting sick from taking those medications, and it's time to help them. It's time to help them.
Yeah. So when you first started writing, a little bit about your process. How did you do it? I have a friend. She said that one day she realized she had this book in her, novel in her, but she said, "I don't have time. I mean, I'm so busy. I'm doing this and that." And then all of a sudden it hit her that if she got up early, no one else in the house was up. So she wrote from like 5 o'clock until, let's say, 6:30, 7 o'clock every day. That was her thing. And she said, "I didn't know what I was writing. I was just writing, right?" And then finally it all started kind of coming to her. The guy started speaking to her and it just, opened up. So she had a best-selling novel. Her first novel out the block was just a runaway bestseller. She said, but she had to have a process. What was your process, Sally?
Just researching, just reading, speaking about what I've been through, and then just researching more that can help educate others, and just sitting down. I have my little office and I just sit here and I just write. And I've been writing a few years ago, but I said it's time for me to write even more. Mm-hmm. If I would have wrote the book in 2007, I wouldn't have had as much information as now, such as all the herbs. I wanted to wait till the right timing. And the stuff that I went through a few years ago, happened to be my own attorney. I'm speaking about that too, to let everyone know. Just because you have a medical condition and someone has misdiagnosed you or diagnosed you, that doesn't mean that you have to give up on yourself. If someone says, you need to just give up on life, no, don't do that. If people discriminate against you, don't do that. What you need to do is you need to see what works best for you. If you know that these medicines are harming you, then you need to get a second opinion. And then you have to sometimes just read and research what is best for you. And always stand up for yourself. It doesn't matter if it's one person, a group of people, or an organization that is trying to tell you that you cannot do something. If God is going to show you the right way, then you need to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's my time to help others because I did not give up on myself.
Fantastic.
I will not. Yes. So,
Samet, how about yourself, your process? I know you told us a little bit about it already, but tell us about your process of writing that book.
Well, it actually started, I didn't plan to write a book, but while I was going through my 3-4 months of chemo, a friend had given me a journal and said it might help me to just start journaling, just start taking notes every day. It may help me deal with the situation better, to be able to just let it go. And so I started by journaling, not knowing or not understanding or even thinking that those notes were going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
Well, when it was laid on my heart to write a book, the first thing I did was called a friend who wrote a book, and she had suggested that she wrote 2 books that were very good, but that she had used a ghostwriter, and I wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, she said, all you need is notes. I said, well, I had lots of notes. So she gave me the name of ghostwriter. In fact, she said, this woman writes Steve Harvey's books and everybody's books. So
Right.
her left a message. She was supposed to call me back. She never did. I waited a week. I called my friend and said she never called me. She said, okay, I'm going to call and put a word in for her to give you a call. She still never called me. So by now, a couple of weeks had gone by, and I thought I need to get started with something. So I figured I don't do a lot of reading. I start more books and don't finish them. But I did know from starting enough books how to write an introduction. So I did was I started with the introduction. And when I couldn't get any further, I started Googling and just trying to get an idea of what a book is like. And pretty much my understanding from what I Googled is like every chapter is almost like a book report. You know, there's an introduction, there's a body, there's a conclusion, and you should take something away from each chapter. So I initially started trying to write about what I call the most miraculous season of my life, which was this last year with the journey I took with cancer. But as I began to write, my mind started just moving. I started writing about how God stepped in and helped me with the cancer and different things. But then when I started really thinking about it, I started remembering back different things like, oh yeah, I remember when me and my husband conceived our first child. And I was so happy. I went to church and we gave a testimony. And then a month later, they told me that they gave me an ultrasound and said that the egg had expired and the baby had died. And I went back to church. I had to let my church know that we lost the baby, because just weeks before I was in church saying, oh, we're pregnant.
Yeah,
They're also happy for us, because I was kind of like a late bloomer with that. So I had to go and let them know what had happened. And so they did some praying for me, just that my husband and I would be able to conceive quickly again, and there wouldn't be a stumbling block. And the next thing I know, I went back to the doctor the following week to have a procedure to get rid of the material from the expired fetus. And they said the heart was beating. And so I thought about that. And then the more I started writing, I thought back about, you know, when I was younger, me and my husband bought our first house, and at the settlement, everything foreclosed, and God stepped in and helped me. And I was able to think back to age 11 when I was in the hospital, and I had gangrene, and they were looking at amputating my leg at 11 years old. They told my mother, you have the option of death or amputation. And my mother, big faith warrior and prayer warrior, and she said, I'm not going to let you cut my 11-year-old daughter's leg off. So I found out later in the years, there was basically a nurse who I thought was just the most helpful nurse in the world. And after I got out the hospital and we went back to the hospital, my mother wanted to take her some flowers. They said there was no nurse with me, that I was quarantined, and I was by myself almost 24 hours a day for 5 days. So I was probably in my 20s or 30s before I realized that that was an angel. And so I thought, maybe I need to start writing a little more. Maybe it shouldn't just be about this particular season of my life. There's so many times. So I started, like you said, with one of your friends. I would get up in the morning. I was quarantined, so I didn't have a lot to do. So I would get up, and it started with me just trying to jot down a little here and there. I started off probably my first week just maybe writing, you know, maybe just a half an hour. And then by the time I got to the second week, I was writing probably like an hour and a half. And by the time I got to the third week, I was writing like 4 hours a day. And it's like once it got into my spirit and I started seeing this thing develop in front of me, it gave me the energy that I needed to just move forward and just start putting it together. But I'm so proud of myself for doing that, because like I said, I'm not even an avid reader, and never in my life thought I would be able to write a book. But one thing I did do that I know helped me, I found a scripture that said, commit all your good works to the Lord, and he will establish your plans. So once I got up every morning, I would say that scripture, and my hand just started writing. And my husband was saying, hey, it's time for dinner. Are you going to cook tonight? And it got to the point where I was just writing all day and all evening. I mean, it would be at night, Sam, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep. The lights are on. And just got into my body, I really kind of got a little bit of an understanding of what it means to be an author. There's a real joy or a real fulfillment that I got when I started seeing what was developing in front of me. So I just kind of went from there.
Okay, fantastic. So for both of you then, hopefully the experience of writing is not going to end with this particular journey. You understand what I'm saying? I hope that both of you see yourself now as authors, and that you will continue to educate and enlighten, the world around you, because you're powerful, and God is using both of you to just lift up the rest of the world, really, in a lot of different ways. Both incredible stories, and both stories have to be told. And I'm glad you're telling them. So where do you want to go with Sister Sally? When you think about your future and all that you are hoping to accomplish and do, what are the things that are on your mind or in your heart that you would mind sharing tonight with us about, where you might go with your writing, where you work?
Okay. Well, I want to continue to write. I don't want this to be my first one, but through this, I just really want to travel and I want to educate people. I really do. If I don't travel, I can always do via Zoom, but I would want to have my own center where I can have people come on in and we can let them know. You don't have to be on all these different drugs and being sick. I want you to be able to get herbs. I want you to be able to learn that you can eat healthy, drink healthier juices, wean yourself off all that stuff. That way you can be able to focus more and move on. A lot of people aren't able to get good jobs or housing. They're sprung out on different things because when they put you on so much medicine and your body withdraws from that stuff, some people turn to drugs and alcohol. Or if they lose their insurance, they can't afford that. So I want to be able to help. I really do.
Fantastic. And I see Rose going to come back on. I'm sure that was Rose Brady. She'll be back. And Sister Samet, how about yourself?
It was never my intention to be an author, but I see where it's taken me somewhere. I really don't know where. I do know that just in the last, it's only been at the end of September since my book went live, but I've had so many invitations to speaking engagements and things like that I have to get my notes in order. So I find myself, I might not be writing a book right now, but I find myself, I'm constantly preparing for another speaking engagement. So I'm doing a lot of writing that way, which is accumulating more notes. So I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm going to be putting my pencil down anytime soon.
I hope not. I surely hope not. Yeah, because both of you are just really captivating in terms of your ability to not only talk about it, but to present it in such a way that it's really powerful. Yeah, that's good.
And I definitely am not a preacher, but I've gotten so many invitations to come and speak at churches and to give exhortations and things like that I have to write. I can speak off the cuff a little, but I want to be better prepared. So I've been doing more writing to prepare these exhortations that I'm doing and to prepare these little mini sermonettes that I'm doing and things like that.
So I was doing a presentation for a sister who was a teacher in the school district, and her husband came in that day, and I know them both well, and so he is more into like maintenance and electricity and stuff like that. Anyhow, vocational. And so one day we were up at the restaurant. What is it? Crawdaddy's. And hey, Ro, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Yes, that's just Ro Brady, everybody. You see Sally Johnson and also Samet George, and this is Ro. And so anyhow, he said to me, hey man, I want to tell you something. He said, I was at your presentation when you were speaking to my wife's, classroom. He said, and you did something, and it's this thing that I do, and I borrowed it from somebody else, and so he borrowed it from me the whole bit. He said, but I had an incident that happened. I said, what was that? He said, I got electrocuted. He said, I've been in this business for a long, long time. He said, and as I'm talking, he said, all of a sudden I touched. He said, I have no idea how that happened. He said, because I know better. He said, I'm literally the safety person for my agency. He said, I touched this wire. He said, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital, and almost lost my life. He said, so I spoke about that experience. He said, and I'm no speaker, He said, I'm telling you, man, they asked me, they said, oh, I don't want to get up there and do that. He said, but I did. I got up and, he said, and I, talked about it. He said, and I had no idea that so many people were moved by what I said. He said, and then this one guy came to me and said, hey, look, my brother happens to have a speakers bureau, and he's up in Boston, Massachusetts somewhere, you know. And he said, I told my brother he needs to come and check you out. He said, because man, you really captivated the audience. He's like, man, you kidding me? He said, I don't know how to speak in front of them. He said, yes, you do. He said, because you just did it, right? So this guy literally comes down from Boston, listens to it, make a presentation, and said, yeah, this guy has now gone all over the country speaking about his experience and talking about safety. And he has that speech down packed a little bit. You never know what's going to happen, who's going to be in the audience, or how you're going to affect somebody. And I got 1,000 stories like that. I met a lady out of Philadelphia, once again, who was doing something in her church. And there was something that happened that God stepped in, obviously. And she said, nothing but God, you know. And so she, you know, started speaking in church, like you said, something that she said, I'm not a preacher, but everybody's like, oh, no, yeah, you are. And so this lady said to her, well, I want you to come speak to my group at IBM. And I'm just saying IBM because it's a major corporation. I forget exactly which one it was. And she said, well, you know, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll come. So she said she goes in and she's making a speech, the same speech she gives in church. And the people just kind of sitting there looking at her. She said, and the church people say, go speech, sisters. What? And they talk back to you, you know. And she said, I wasn't getting any of that. So she said, I'm doing my thing and these people are quiet. Well, here's the difference. She's African-American. She's speaking to a Black church, more, you know, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever. There's a call and response. She's now speaking to a corporate group of mostly white men and some white women, maybe one or two, you know, African-Americans in the audience. And she said, they're just kind of sitting there looking at her. No response. She says, they take a break. She goes into the restroom and she just busts out crying. She's like, I am dying in here. And she said, I'm so sorry. When the woman came in who had asked her to speak, the woman comes in and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what, you know. And she said, sorry about what? And she said, oh my God, they love you. She said, they're talking about how they're going to bring you in again. They're talking about, oh, this is the best, you're the best they've ever had. You know, you're electrified. She said, oh no, they're not going to do all that hallelujah stuff. She said, come on now, you know. She said, no, these people are into you. She said, they just showed a different way. You just got to get used to that, you know. So it's a different audience, but the message is the same. And I'm telling you, you have them in the palm of your hand. She said, I had to adjust my thinking. You know, my message was a message that God gave me, and I had to give that message no matter where I was, and trust and believe that it's going to work. It's going to be what, you know. So I would just say that to all three of you ladies. Ro is on that same tip as well, because Ro is a businesswoman. She's a writer. She's a novelist. And also, then Ro, you can tell your own story. And also she has just started her own editing business and all that good stuff. And so, yeah. Ro, have you met Samet George?
I've known Samet for years.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses on. I'm working from my phone right now. So I'm working with a screen like that.
You remember, well, it's Rose Williams now. Rosetta?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's where I met Rosetta at William Penn.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I've known you for years, though. You probably don't remember me.
Yeah. And how are you connected with Rosetta?
She used to, it's funny, I guess I'm telling my age. I taught at the high school where she graduated at.
And we should, Harrisburg School District? Harrisburg?
Yeah, I taught there for 15, 16 years before I went to Central Dauphin.
Wow. What is your name? Do you have a maiden name, or is Williams your maiden name?
Oh, Williams is her Rosetta's name now.
Okay. What is your name?
My maiden name at that time was Whaley.
I think I do remember. Yes, I do remember.
Mm-hmm. Now, were you at William Penn High School? Which school were you in, Ro?
I was at William Penn.
I didn't realize that. Isn't that something?
Yeah, and it's funny. I was just talking about that position. I'm subbing now, and I ran into a teacher that I worked with. Gosh, it's probably been 20 years ago, and we were talking about the old school, the old Central Dauphin High School that is now on Piketown. It started off on Locust Lane, and that's where I met him, and we started talking. I was like, that was 20 years ago, and we're like, yeah. So that's probably been even longer than 20 years ago.
Well, Ro, let me also introduce you to Sally Johns. Sally is originally from what, Philadelphia, Sally, or no?
Well, I met
No.
Sally last weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
you were last week. That's right. Sure,
Yeah.
you did. Yes. I'm
Hello.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So you
hello,
did. That's
how
right.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for asking.
Good. And I just saw your text. I had sent you the number.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you
I
so
haven't
much.
seen it until now. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
it's funny that you talk about speeches because the my other client that I'm working with asked me to write a speech for her.
Okay.
And she's doing something on diversity.
Hmm.
Not to give her story away, but she, in a chapter in what I'm working on, she tells the story about being in Sudan, and they have, like, I call it the communal bowl. Like,
Mhm.
they're having dinner and nobody has a separate plate. Everybody eats from this one bowl.
Yep.
And she was telling me about this speech she's doing in diversity. And I told her sometimes I get an aha moment in the shower where there's never a pen, pencil, or computer, right?
Right.
I started carrying a notebook into the bathroom with me, dry myself off, and there I am standing there with the towel wrapped around my body, writing this note to myself because I know by the time I get out of the shower, I'm going to forget it. Well, I told her, I said, I have this aha moment about the speech. And she said, what is it? And I said, okay, remember that big bowl you told me that your family ate out of? I said, do you have anything that's similar to that, a really big bowl? Because you're talking about diversity. You're bringing one bowl to the table. Everybody has an opportunity to get what they get from that one bowl. And she tells this story, inside her story. And I said, you walk on stage and everybody's going to wonder why you're carrying this big bowl. And as you walk up, you place this bowl on the podium and you say, there was only one bowl. And your whole speech comes about diversity, about being one, that everybody came to this one communal bowl. Everybody had a share in this one. And I said, you do every time you're talking about this, something, some metaphor, some literary device you're using, but your visual is this bowl.
I will tell you, we were in Senegal, and that's the first time I experienced that, and it wasn't a bowl, it was just a round, everyone sitting just on the floor,
Yeah.
and the food's just there, and everybody ate with their hands. And it was just kind of deep, and just automatically you kind of vision like a little pie area, I guess that was yours, you know what I mean?
But it's like on the floor. And that,
yeah,
but
just everybody's on the floor and everybody just doing the thing.
Yeah. But I said,
but anyhow, it's all good.
It's a great visual for diversity. There is only one, and I told her that
if you could vision that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I told her that's why she's going to bring this bowl.
That would be great. Some people just can't, they just can't wrap their heads around that, right? It can't, you can't, it gotta be more than one because this is mine and then there's yours. And that's unfortunate. But I love that image, Ro. That's really good. Yeah. So listen, here's the thing. Tonight we were going to do the 100 poets reading second phase. And obviously we don't have that happening tonight, but this is really good. What we have is three dynamic women who are here, who are all have their own journeys. Sally Johns was just telling us about hers in terms of why she's written or in the process of writing her book that deals with her journey through it with epilepsy. Of course, Samet was telling us her story and her journey, which is just an incredible story about the diagnosis and the will and the covenant that she had with God to simply not give up and allow God to use her, that she might be an example. God's still on the throne. Ro just came back from DC. She made a big move and then decided to come back. And we're so glad you did. But tell us, Ro, because we were just talking to the other two sisters, what was that experience like when you decided, you know what, we're gonna make that sojourn back? What went through you? What were you thinking of as you decided to make that move?
Well, originally we moved there because of my husband's job. He's the executive director for NICL, which is the National Council on Independent Living. And he's a person living with a disability. So frequently he has to go to DC for work. And, he thought, well, maybe this would be easier if we simply moved there. Well, he also has to pay for attendant care. meaning somebody comes into our home and they help him with a lot of physical things. Well, the cost of living, as you all know, in Washington is a lot different than the cost of living here in Harrisburg, and the amount, you can make a really good salary, but if you're paying someone $400 or $500 a week, it's a lot, especially, where we were living at, it was a really nice apartment. Center City, Washington, we were in walking distance of the White House, and he, typically has a lot of meetings at the White House. He'll be going there on Monday. It just didn't financially, nobody wants to be house poor. You don't want to struggle. So he found an accessible apartment here in Harrisburg, and he said, I just think it would be a better idea. And for me, I didn't like, to be truthful about it, I didn't really like Washington. I really, really wanted to like it. I really tried hard. And it was funny because our church was doing a book group, and the book was on blessing your neighbor. And then was the acronym BLESS, and each letter stood for something that had to do, how are you going to bless your neighbor? And a friend of mine reached out and said, would you facilitate our group? And I was like, and I facilitated a lot of groups at my church. And after I read the synopsis of this book, I thought, I can't bless any of my neighbors. I don't even know any of my neighbors. And I was having these horrible experiences where, every time I would go outside, something would happen to me. Like, I'll give you one quick one. I got in, I don't know, I guess it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. I got in the elevator and I got off the floor that I was, getting off on. And I was standing there on the side of the elevator waiting for the door to open. And this woman burst out the elevator and practically runs into me, right? And I move over and she looks at me and says, like this nasty look. And I say, good morning. And it was this reaction, it was this reaction. And I've had some, and that was the better one. I got a guy ran into me with a bicycle. I literally had a bruise from one side of my arm all the way up the next. And it's called derogatory names in the street. And I hated it. And I was like, Lord, what do you have me here for? But now here's the testimony in being there. Theo had an attendant that was really, really, and I don't like to tell anybody else's story, so I'll just say she was struggling with several issues. And she came to our apartment to help my husband out, and she was in tears. And I said to her, what's wrong? And she would bring her kids with us. So the kids would sit and watch TV, or I would sit and talk to them. And she was in tears. And I said, well, like trying not to get her daughter upset, I said, come out in the hallway with me. So she came out in the hallway and she, went ahead and told me what she was upset about. And I said to her, I said, God has got this. He has got this. But I said, here's the key. Do you know God for yourself? And she just burst into tears. And I said, well, would you like to know God for yourself? And she shook her head. And then we prayed this prayer of salvation. And I told her, I said, you know what? You now know God. And I said, walk with him. He'll see you through this. I said, if you feel like you're struggling, call me. I just texted her earlier this week. And I said, how are things going? And that I walked away with knowing, if the one thing that I had done while I was there was to share Christ with somebody.
All right. That's good.
That was one thing, that was the one thing that happened that I know that God said, I have this for you and I have this for her. Nobody else can do this because I've called you to do it.
But let's go around. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. But again, I'm so glad you're back in the Berg. Okay, absolutely. So let's go back to San Matthew here, and then I'm going to ask Sister Sally as well. Inspire somebody out there right now who, this season can be extremely difficult for some people. It reminds them of something. Everyone's saying joy to the world, and the Lord has come and this and that. But there's some lonely people out there. My son works down in New York in the school district there, and yesterday or 2 days ago, I guess it was, 15-year-old kid stabbed a 14-year-old kid to death, and that one boy that got killed happened to be in my son's classroom. And he was just saying how it's something else to see somebody, you're talking to them, they go out of school, and within half an hour they're dead because of a stupid fight over nothing, absolutely nothing. Hey, I see the brother back there.
My
What's
charger.
going on, sir?
I started so he to get me a charger.
All right, Brother George, how you doing, man?
Oh, he already rode back out.
He rode out already. I saw him pop in though. But anyhow, so let's do some inspirational stuff here for a minute. Everybody take 5, and I'm going to give each person 5 minutes, if that's okay. Just think about it. Speak to someone out there today, and just let them know that, hey, yeah, with you and God, that's a powerful team. So, man, what would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Sam, I'm gonna ask you to jump in.
Okay.
Take your time. Take your time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say, first of all, remember that there's another report. That no matter what, if you're going through a situation, a health crisis, or it can be almost anything, a relationship problem or problems on your job or whatever, there is another report that number one, God took the stripes for our healing to start with, and not just healing illnesses, like I said, healing relationships, healing broken hearts, healing loneliness, all those things. I use a lot of times when I speak the scripture, I think it's Matthew 9:20 through 23, about the woman with an issue of blood, and how she went 12 years of suffering and trying to get through something. And apparently they say that she wasn't even a poor woman, but she was kind of cast out because of her illness, because she couldn't get rid of it. But this woman did not give up, even though year 1, year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, year after year, she suffered. She did not give up. And she had heard that Jesus was coming through her town. And she believed, her faith was so strong that she believed, if I can just get to him and touch the hem of his garment. She didn't say, I need Jesus to lay hands on me. I need Jesus to pray for me. I need to see him. She believed that he was so powerful. Her faith was so strong in what she believed in that she felt as though if I just touch the hem. And back during those days, there were no concrete sidewalks or macadam streets. They were walking through a lot of dirt. So the hem of the garment had to be the dirtiest, nastiest, probably jagged, torn. But even through it all, she was like, if I can just touch that thing, I know how powerful he is and how I can move forward. And I share that with a lot of people who have been through things. They think that just because they may have suffered a year, maybe they suffered 2 years, maybe like the woman with the issue of blood, maybe 12 years, that God has given up on them, or that they need to give up on themselves. I believe that when you talk about faith, it's about believing and believing in nothing else. Like I said, I went to doctors. My doctors were sure that I should see a psychologist in the beginning. They thought I was in denial, but I was determined that I was going to stand on his promises. There's too many scriptures that are backed up in the Bible about situations, and God wants us to live a happy life. So whatever is going on in your life, you just have to believe in yourself, believe in those people around you, believe in God. Just believe that things are going to get better, that it does not matter. There's another scripture that says, it's written, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, neither has entered the heart of man the plans God has for those who love him. And what that means is nobody has seen the last report. Nobody has heard the last report, and God has not laid it on anybody's heart to tell you what that last report is. So I just believe that if you're going through anything at all, and I understand what you mean about the holidays. They say so many people get depressed during the holidays. They get lonely. They're time when they say there's more suicides during that time. All right. But you just have to really believe and really hold on. I think I read once where it was just a little saying that when you come to the end of your rope, when you think it's all over, when you come to the end of your rope, don't give up. Tie a knot and hold on.
Hold on.
I believe. I was sure that I was not, or certain from the very beginning that nothing that they said was going to sway me from the left or the right. I was going to believe that things were going to get better in my life.
Okay. That's that. Thank you. Appreciate you. It's very good, and I like that image of tying that knot and holding on. That's a good one. Yeah, Sister Sally, I'm gonna ask you to do the same thing, and I know you know.
Bear with me one second.
Yeah, sure. Take your time. Take your time.
Okay, here I am. Sorry, my phone.
It's okay.
Totally apologize. Trying to come back on here.
Yeah.
What's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we see you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, I'm going to speak something from Hebrew 11.
Yes, sir.
But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And I know through all my struggles, I had to just believe in God. Okay. I know a lot of people gave up on me thinking I was crazy, were embarrassed to be around me, but I knew that God was watching over me and my guardian angel. I know my granny watches over me.
All right.
You say never give up. I know you can do it. She apologized about the accident several times, but I know she didn't mean to blank out. She was ill. And I just know she's watching over me, and I want to help other people because people get embarrassed, they get scared. And like we were discussing, a lot of people are lonely. They've been cut off or they're just going through things. I went through it, even being homeless after I had to lose my job while fighting for my medical assistance and stuff. You don't look sick, you can't get any assistance. So I had to keep trying, keep going. And I want to help other people. And that's
all right.
Can I just piggyback on that for just a minute?
Sure.
A lot of times when you're going through something, one of the first things you need to do is get rid of the negative talk. If people aren't on the same plane as you, you're gonna have to say no to those people. You're gonna have to push them away. I mean, from the time I got sick in the very beginning, I thought I had decided that I'm going to share this. I'm not going to hide this illness. I'm not going to I'm going to let people know what I'm going through, and I'm going to remind them that God is going to heal me. But even though I was saying that, there were so many people who were totally somewhere different. I mean, everything from one of my best friends, who I let her know I'm going to be okay. Everything they're saying, it's going to be a little different. It may not be easy, but I know it's going to be different. Well, before I could even talk to her about the possibility, I didn't tell her I was going to go through chemo. She came to me one day and she thought she was doing a good thing. And a lot of times when people are speaking, they think they're helping. Yeah. One day in the mail, she said, I sent you a really nice gift. And I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be something inspirational. It's going to be something that's going to get me charged up. It was 10 cancer scars. So before I could even lose hair, before I even talked, she just in her mind thought I'm going to lose my hair. So she started preparing for that before it even came. And so other things happen like that to me as well. And I spoke to my pastor about it. And he said, we're going to pray that some tongues are bridled. We need to get a hedge around you because this negative energy is something that you do not need. You need people who are talking hope. People are talking faith. People are talking prosperity, future, life. People who are, and I felt bad because many times I did not want to say, they would say, I had one friend who said, yeah, well, everything they're doing, my grandmother went through this and she still died. And my grandmother, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for your grandmother, but that's not going to be my story. Right, and so people constantly compare what I was going through with somebody else but I don't know their story. For all I know, maybe they weren't even believers, but I think that one thing you have to do is find out who your support system is, who those people are who will help get you through your journey. God, the Bible word says God will put those, he'll put the right people in your path to make your crooked place straight. And I had to pray that these tongues that were not lifting me up would be bridled. And once we started saying that prayer, honestly, it was just a matter of a couple of days before everybody who spoke to me was talking light. And those people who were talking death and whatever, somehow they were just pushed away. They were just, they drifted from my circle, because it's almost like they didn't want to even hear me talking life.
That's right.
They wanted to rely on the report from the doctor. And I kept saying, I'm not going to do that. So one thing I think sometimes society has us to a point where we're almost ashamed. And in fact, even when God first spoke to me, and like I said, God, it wasn't like he just spoke to me in a dream or just laid in my head. God spoke to me. I remember the tone of his voice. I remember everything. And for a minute, I didn't even tell my husband for about 3 hours because I was afraid of what people may say when I say God spoke to me. That people are going to say, oh, she's crazy. Oh, and it took me a minute to really put my big girl panties on and say,
I hear you.
What they say. I know what's going on, and I'm going to speak out. And from that, I told my husband, and believe it or not, he just said, Sam, if there's someone who God has spoke to and is going to break, you're the one. And as I spoke to people embraced what I was saying. They were like, we're there with you. You know, once I pushed away those couple doctors who tried to calculate my time and the one who told me there was no God, then God started putting my doctor, when the one doctor, when I went and told him my story and what I've been going through, I said, I just need to know one thing. Do you believe in God? And he said, do anything without the big guy upstairs. Then my brain surgeon, which I was so proud of, he's a young black man, 38 years old here in Harrisburg. I didn't know we had any black brain surgeons. But when I asked him, I said, do you believe in God? Without hesitation, he said, of course I do. So once I said that prayer, the right people started getting in my pathway. And those wrong people started moving out of my pathway. So I would suggest if you're going through anything, don't get into somebody who wants to have a pity party with you. It's my personal thing that God doesn't attend pity parties. It's just not his style.
But you know what, also, let me just say this to you, and I thank you. And I love the passion that you brought to that, because that's what it's all about. You have to believe. If you don't believe yourself, you know, you're just kind of talking, but you have to believe. And so, you know, there's that thing called the big but. And a lot of people live with the big but. And so they'll say something, they'll put themselves in a position where they're talking about God and the relationship with God. But then in their mind, they're thinking, yeah, but, you know, and so they don't really believe. So that but becomes really big. Yeah, but it's like, I believe in God, but, you know, I've had so many bad experiences. I believe in God, but these people around me, and so get rid of the big but in your life. And it's amazing how your faith will be, renewed and reinvigorated. And it would be much clearer too, because you've taken all that stuff, that cholesterol, the big but out of the way. And a lot of people actually live with that. They say they believe and they don't believe. When I listen to you, you're, and I want to get rolling here now because I know, I was trying to get her in as well. I know that you believe because it's the way you present it and the passion that you believe. And that's why I'm glad that you're writing, because what you're doing is you're taking that which God's given you and you're actually, you're letting it be on fire. I never forget, I use this all the time. What's his name? Don King, the great boxing promoter who with the crazy hairdo. He spoke to us out at a conference, and Don King said this, and I remember thinking that was brilliant. He said, if you set yourself on fire, the world will come and watch you burn. He said, just set yourself on fire, but you got to know what fire you're using. So here's the thing, the Holy Ghost fire is different than hellfire. Am I right? So make sure that you have the Holy Ghost fire up in you, and ain't nothing that you can't do, ain't nothing that someone can't tell you that God can't do or say to you, because the Holy Ghost fire will speak to you every time. And so I'm going to ask Sister Rhoda to jump in here as well, and you give us some thoughts, and we'll just open it up. And then after Rose speaks, I want to go to Brother Chris and have him do a couple of the videos. I know he's lined some things up for us, and I always want to make sure we get a little poetic voice in here as well. Ro?
Well, I'm going to add another scripture to the mix. It's from Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good. For the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So I think too, there are those people who, sow seeds of negativity, but then we get discouraged and we give up. And just as we give up, God, it was like, you were almost there. You were almost there. Just keep going. Martin Luther King said it, and I know you know this quote. I might get it wrong. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, run. If you can't run, you know the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah. I got it.
But basically, at the end of that quote, he says, basically, just do something. Just do something.
Yeah.
So we go back and we look at our faith, and our faith wavers because we're human. But once we get to that point of realizing that God has never forgotten me, that God has never forsaken me, what will make me think that he's going to leave me now? And I've been in those situations where it's like, wow, I got to look back on the reputation you had in my life and realize you got me through, just like that move from Washington, all those crazy things that happened to me. And I got stories that I can share, but I hold on to those. It could have always been worse.
Yes.
It
Amen.
could have always been worse. But God said, no, I put this hedge of protection around you, and he didn't promise us life's a rose garden. He didn't say, like, you're never going to struggle. So those of you who think, like, oh, poor me, I'm struggling. No, just keep going. Because that word says if we continue to press on, if we continue to persevere, that there is going to be that point in our time where we're going to see the face of God and realize it was him who got us through. It wasn't doctor. It wasn't, the degree that you have. It wasn't any of those things. It was simply him. But we got to press on.
That's good. That's
get
real good.
Our blessings when we press on. And our blessings really just aren't for us. Because when we press on and we create and we have these hard times in our lives, then what we do is we use those hard times to bless someone else, to sow seeds into someone else's life. But if you've only had rainbows and daisies, you got nothing to sow.
Yeah.
You got nothing to sow. So once you have those hard times and you say, hey, this is what God did for me, he'll do it for you.
I want to also say hello to Lizelle Powder. Thank you, Ro. That was brilliant, and everyone. Thank you for your words. Sister Lizelle, how you doing?
Hi, good night, everyone. I'm good.
Hello.
Hey, Lizelle.
We have with us, Ro Brady, Sally Johns, and also Samuel George. And so this is Lizelle. Lizelle, tell everybody who you are. And we're talking about overcoming and trying to inspire people. And I know you're an overcomer as well. Tell us a little bit of your story of overcoming.
Well, just as how Ro was, speaking about how God moved you from one place to the next, I just reflected on where I came from Trinidad, coming here. And after the divorce with my husband, and I didn't know what to do next, being homeless with my children, moving from place to place, I was like, what the hell? Should I go back home? Should I go back to my country? And because that was the last resort I wanted to do. But most of my friends say, you're done here, stick it out. And that's what I did, and I started writing poetry. It wasn't making sense. I was just writing rhyme, like a rhyming song. And during the course of the years, I've developed such, patience, but learning to deal with situations a little better. And to see where I was before to now, it's a total difference for me. I've put the past behind and I'm pushing sometimes certain things pop up a little bit, but I try not to get overwhelmed by them and keep pushing forward.
Good stuff, yeah.
And God is the one that is keeping me going. keeping me.
Yeah. You also turned to painting. Is that right, Ms. Zell?
Was that?
You also turned to painting.
Oh yes,
painted.
I did. Yeah, I was lying down on my bed and a voice just say, get up and paint. This was in 2019, and I said, get up and paint what? Get up and paint. So I said, but I don't have anything to paint with, you know? And I was telling my girlfriend about it, and she said, well, what do you need? And I said, well, I need all the stuff for the paint, the canvas, the brushes. And she said, okay, I'll go up on Amazon. And she went up on Amazon and bought the whole set of stuff and sent it from Alaska. She's living in Alaska, and she just sent it to New York, you know, and that's how everything. I say, but Lord, you're telling me get up and paint. I don't even know how to paint. I don't even know what to do. And as time go by, the inspiration came. The Holy Spirit just started to show me what to do until I'm selling artwork, until my artwork is in gallery. And I'm just, you know, amazed as how God has transformed this.
Amen. Amen. So we have a recurring theme here. God has spoken to every last one of us on this program tonight in many different ways, and we are overcomers. And we've all taken to writing too. That's a powerful thing, because that means we're not just speaking to ourselves or not just worried about ourselves. We're actually speaking to the world now, right? And so I don't know. Where do we go from here? Let's do this. I'm gonna ask Brother Chris if he'll bring up a video, because I know he's prepared some videos for us. And let's just get a little inspiration. And then when we come back, let's talk about where we want to go in terms of the rest of the conversation for the night. And I appreciate y'all coming on. Here's a spoken word piece.
And who could have imagined the word whispered into the ruptured eardrum of humanity after 400 years of silence, after what seemed to be an eternity of self-inflicted violence against our very own souls, came the word, wrapped in skin, cradled gently in the arms of a teenage girl who had herself been created by him, an impossible plot twist that nobody could have predicted except the word. A conundrum caused by the calculated conception of the Christ child in the virgin womb of a peasant. Who could have predicted the present, the gift, delivered from heaven like a prepaid postal message, free for us, but it would soon cost him his life. This is the splendor of Christmas night, when God set the record for the heaviest baby ever. The weight of his glory broke every fetter as he lay in the fodder of foals, and men ran ultra marathons to find him and behold his majesty, to look upon the face of perfection and smell the newborn scent of redemption in a dirty stable turned sanctuary where sheep keepers and star seekers knelt to worship at his feet, because that is the proper thing to do when in the presence of a king. This was the beginning of the rags to riches story of a poor boy who was born to save the world, born to unfurl the ancient plans of a timeless God who made us, knowing that one day he would have to come to save us from ourselves. And he did. It's the breaking news that came breaking through the stained glass of our shattered conscience, light refracting through the windows of the beautiful cathedrals we had built on our best behavior, but never bothered to light a candle. And so we sat there in the pitch black, enamored with the glitz that glamorized our sin, never foreseeing the squalor our Savior would be born in. We lived better than him, but the question is, had we ever really lived at all? This is the problem that Christmas solves. New life in a manger, giving new life to the ones who were strangers to God. How odd that he would even the score for us, put his star player on the floor for us, Jesus, the first pick in the draft, the firstborn among men, who came to graft us into his family like we deserved that win, but we didn't. We just caught a wave with him, and we are riding it from the nativity into eternity, an all expense paid trip. Who could have imagined this? except the one who penned the script and flipped it for our benefit when he wrote his own self into it, grew in favor and stature before God and men to show us what it really meant to live. This is the hope that Christmas gives. So enjoy the season and all its whims, singing peace on earth and goodwill to men while you wrap the gifts under the tree you trimmed, but don't drown out the word that rolled off the tongue of a makeshift crib in Bethlehem when there was no room for him in the inn. The word that defies all definition and decries the fate of our original sin. The word, a living, breathing expression of him. The word that was wrapped in skin.
Beautiful.
Hallelujah.
Absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Who wants to pick up on that? Anyone want to?
Very powerful, I would say.
When I hear that, all I hear is hope. Hope for tomorrow. Hope for tomorrow.
Very
Powerful.
beautiful. It reminds me that we are the bodies of Christ.
Amen. I had my one son call me there. So I had to take that, let him know I called him back. But yeah, that was her vocabulary and everything. That was just beautifully said. And the imagery that she, threw out there as well. And just the way she tied that whole story together about, the birth of Christ and his meaning and just, very, very well, very powerful. Very well.
Mr. Gadsden, where do they find that? Where, if I wanted to pull it up, I didn't, my phone isn't showing everything, but
Yeah.
something
Brother Chris Thomas, Pastor Chris Thomas, can you please come up and help us out with that question?
I'm sorry. What was the question, ladies? My apologies.
The video that you just showed us, where would we find that? If somebody wanted to,
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat here in 2 seconds. Just give me 2
Hey,
seconds.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
No
Yeah. Yeah, Brother Chris finds all those. He's masterful at that.
That's such a beautiful thing to share during this time of year.
Yes, indeed. So, the Wordshop, we do a lot of programming, and I do want to mention again that tomorrow morning from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m., we're going to have our annual Kwanzaa celebration. And yes, it is a pre-Kwanzaa program, and it is free. And it will be at the Camp Curtin Academy on 6th and Division Street in the gym. And you want to come to the area where we park, and the gym is right on that side of the building, and you don't want to miss it. We're going to have Mafelda Thomas from Philadelphia, the wonderful African storyteller, as well as a stilt walker. She will be on those stilts. I mean, it's amazing how she can walk and dance on those things. And then also we're going to have the Dwinneman African Dance community. We're going to also have the ABW Productions Fashion Show, MC Reverend Dred Perky Scott, and he will be singing for us as well. You also have Brad Dupree, the DJ. You will have Lark Daniels, like I mentioned, with the Dwinneman dance community. A lot of poets will be there as well, and vendors galore, as well as a children's corner. And it's going to be a very special children's corner this year as well. Have a lot of activities for the kids. So bring your whole family, have fun from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. And whatever you do, just enjoy yourself. By the way, also hats off to the various, they call them the Divine Nine. And I want to thank Sister Oprah Winfrey for coming with this brainstorm. Oprah Winfrey has put a lot of money and effort behind redoing The Color Purple. And so The Color Purple will be coming out on December the 25th officially, but the Divine Nine, the various African-American sororities and fraternities are sponsoring a showing of The Color Purple starting tomorrow and all over the country. So I do know that, I think it's I probably have it wrong, the Zeta organization, I think starting at 6 o'clock, is going to be showing The Color Purple. And you have to go online, the Eventbrite. And I believe it's at the Regal, I'm not sure where, but then there's another sorority around here that's going to be showing it as well. And so if you want to see it early, you can see it starting tomorrow. thanks to the Divine Nine all over the country and Sister Oprah Winfrey and others. It looks fantastic, the trailers that I've seen. I always loved the movie anyhow, but this one looks like it's stepping it up another notch here. So let's check out whatever you do. Every now and then one comes out that we just gotta go see as a community. And I would think The Color Purple is one of those movies, okay? So check it out, whatever you do. Also, don't forget that on the 17th of December, we'll be at the State Museum. The 17th of December, we're going to honor 8 dynamic women from the Harrisburg community who are artists in their own way. And also, we'll be lifting up a sister by the name of, oh my goodness. Okay, so Dr. Dr. Yajama Smalls, PhD. She is a outstanding artist as well as outstanding, poet. Her father is the Reverend Irving Smalls, who's a chaplain at Hershey Medical Center, and outstanding gentleman he is. And he's the one who told me about his daughter. I got a chance to meet her and her brother. By the way, that will be their birthday. December the 17th is their birthday, so we'll be celebrating their birthday. But she's bringing her paintings. Her paintings are selling for thousands of dollars, and she's an African-centered artist. And so she will be coming in on December the 17th. She actually that's her in the little corner there, and she designed that flyer for us. And so you can see how beautiful her artwork is and what she does. That's going to be Sunday the 17th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It actually is going to be from 12 to 4 because we're going to have the vendors, all of the women that are being honored will be selling their wares as well. And then, of course, you'll be meeting Dr. Yajama Smalls, and she will be, giving a lecture as well as telling you about her artwork and her poetry and her life. Again, you don't want to miss that. It's a free program, and it's something that the entire family can, take part of, okay? Okay, so we do have some things coming up. So, does anybody have anything you'd like to read or excerpt from your books? We have about 25 minutes, and each of you have a novel, book, poetry. So why don't we take at least 3 minutes or so each, and then we'll, if we have more time, we'll do a round robin. But why don't you pull out an excerpt from your book, tell us a bit about that, and let's do, like I said, let's just do 3 since you have 4 of you, and that way, that should give us enough time. In fact, 5, 10, 15, 20, 3 minutes each, and then we'll talk about it. So Matt, let's start with you first.
Actually, I'm just trying to walk in. I don't have my book in front of me right now. So.
Okay, no problem.
First, I have it, but I need to walk and get it.
Well, okay, I'll start with Sister Sally then, and let you get your book, and then we'll ask Sister Sally if you don't mind starting, and then
I have to log back in. I apologize. I have to log back into my computer. My son took over this area, so I had to relocate. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll ask Ro to start. Just everybody take the time. We'll get there. We'll get there. And then also, I'm going to ask Sister Lazelle to step in and do some of her poetry as well. But Ro, would you like to give us 3 minutes of your one of your books?
I think I have one that goes with our theme. It's called The Let Down. Don't let the letdown get you down. You need to let go of how you thought it would be. Let's not get into the disappointments, disagreements, and the disillusions that cloud your thinking. These things too shall pass. Delight in these weaknesses. One can find strength in the sun, the S-O-N. My dear one, I have come so that you may have life. These heavy burdens that bend your back, borrow your brow, and cause you weariness are only for a moment. This is a time for new awakenings. Open your heart to the possibilities and know that all things are possible because I am. This temporary setback has been designed for your impending comeback. Sit up straight and tall. Don't worry. I'm not going to let you fall. Change your mindset. Don't you fret. It's all good now. This is your time. Find your way. Make your peace. It's not how you thought it would be. it's never that way.
Very good. Very
Beautiful.
good. I was just thinking of a situation where a person was disappointed and she started crying. She was very upset and everything. And I said, well, what's the problem, you know? And so she was disappointed because it wasn't what she thought it was going to be. But when she thought about it, that, you know, God was blessing her with a tremendous gift, you know, but because it fell short of what her expectation was, she all of a sudden didn't think that, you know, and so she had to remind herself that she was being blessed. And, you know, she came around. So we had a really good conversation about that. But that's a great piece. Because sometimes we let that letdown, you know, block out the blessing. And we can't do that, you know. God just blessed you. You don't see it right now, but wow. And she did. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's great. And where's that from? That's from one of your books of poetry?
Yeah, it's just a poem I wrote a while back ago. It's just in a notebook.
All right.
And
Okay.
kind of going with the theme. I was like, oh, I think I got one.
I like that. I like it. But you do have, just tell us the title of one of your poetry books, or your poetry book. What's the title of it?
Actually, I've just finished writing a new one. It's not published yet. The one that I currently have out is green or fried okra and green tomato poetry. Has nothing to do with food.
That's good, though. That's great, though. That's great. Sally, thank you. If you could give us 3 minutes of your works as well.
Okay, I will most definitely love to do that. Now, this is from my book that will be published soon. It's titled Living with Epilepsy in My Own Words. Speaking about my journey, but in today's judgmental society, many individuals are embarrassed to open up and talk about their personal health issues, as well as any painful medical conditions they may be living with. Being silent about their health is causing them to suffer privately. I want to encourage others to speak up, ask direct questions, and receive the proper support they deserve. I wrote that because my goal is to help educate and to just offer support. Like I say, a lot of people, they shut down, they get afraid, and when we don't feel comfortable and are afraid, we just suffer privately. And when you're dealing with something, you have to know that God is going to help you, and then it helps to have support, but everyone doesn't have support from family and friends. So through my book, I want to uplift them and let them know they will be okay.
Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. And did you tell us the title of the book again?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Living in Epilepsy in My Own Words. It's an
words.
education in living with epilepsy in my own words.
Education, excellent, excellent, wonderful. Okay, appreciate you. Okay, and we'll keep it going. I'm going to ask Samantha. She'll come in and give us a piece of. If you're not ready, we can go to the Zil. Okay. All right, you ready? Oh yeah, you're muted though. You're muted, Samantha. You're muted. Can she? Okay. She's not able to get it off there right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the Zil and ask the Zil. She'll read the piece, and then we'll come back to Samet when she can find that mute button. Go ahead,
Okay,
Zil.
I'm muted now.
Oh, okay. There you go. There you go.
Wait a minute. I'm not the best when it comes to technology. So
Listen, join the club. I'm in that club too. So okay. Well, are you ready then? Can you do a piece?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, the name of my book is Few Are Chosen. And what I'm going to read comes from chapter 1 called They Said, Whose Report Will You Believe? And it says, you must remember, God is always there in the midst of our storms, no matter how big or small, or how strong the winds blow. When you choose to invite him into your heart and trust and believe that all things are possible with him, no matter what the reports say, your storm that seemed out of control will be transferred into a beautiful spring shower. But it starts with you not starting a pity party and inviting others to join you. My mom used to always say, misery loves company. Your friends may quickly accept your invitation to show up and bring you down more instead of giving you words of encouragement. The information they have to contribute to the conversation may be exactly the kind of talk you don't need to hear. They may even tell you to invite God in by praying if you haven't already done so. For the record, God does not attend pity parties. It's just not his style.
I like that. That's a good way to end that. It's just not his style. Go ahead. That's really good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And we'll keep the round robin going. I'm going to ask Lizelle if she'll read a piece as well.
This is from Welcome to America that came out early on this year. I'm just going to read a piece. Yes. The plane landed at JFK at 1:20 p.m. American Airlines 320. A very spacious aircraft. The flight was good. As the plane came to a complete halt, this is my new life, I thought. Looking back at what was before, my mind recalled the packing, the nervousness, the excitement. I am going to miss my country, the country of my birth, Trinidad and Tobago, the land of steel band and calypso, mass, all the nice things that I enjoyed. A bit of sadness came over me as I reminisced the life that was before. Then a nudge on my shoulder and a voice, Mrs. Barker, Mrs. Barker. The flight attendant said. I jumped. You can disembark at this time. Welcome to America, she said. Thank you very much, I said. I collected my carry-on and made my way out and waited to collect my other baggages. It was a long process. I went through immigration. This was all new to me. I was amazed that this airport is humongous. The airport in Trinidad can fit in here about 10 times. Somehow, my senses felt uneasy, the same uneasiness I felt at the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad. When the attendant handed me my brochures of domestic violence, I said to myself, why are they handing me this? But the change of atmosphere felt great.
Wow. You know, you didn't mention it, but you've mentioned it before about domestic violence was a part of your story. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever write about that? Have you written about that?
Actually, the book, well, it was supposed to be my experience with my children and my husband, all that we went through. I wanted to put it in a book, but I was afraid to let it all out.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I noticed for a number of different writers. You know, you're concerned about whether or not I should tell the story because those people are still alive, and whether or not, you know, you'd be sued or attacked or whatever. And that's always consideration. How would you handle that, any of you, when you think about what to tell the story, but you do have to, you know, you would tell the story, and it's not just your story, it'd be the story of other people from your perspective. How do you feel about that, writing and using, you know, real people in your works? Anybody?
Well, I'm doing that now with the ghostwriting. The individual that I'm working with, she's using it really, you know, as a platform to help other people. We've been going back and forth and talking about the development of the story and about how, you know, when you write a memoir, and you're not somebody like Viola Davis or, you know, these big stars who have written memoirs, it's difficult for someone to read it and really relate to your life because you're not, you know, this big major star. So I had suggested to her writing it as a fictional story with, you know, based upon her. So I think it depends on the approach in which you take. My first novella, I wrote about the students that I worked with, and it wasn't always a positive experience. You know, I was coming in as the only Black educator in a building where there was a lot of racial stress there. And I wrote about it, you know, but I didn't put anybody's name in it. It was in a different location. It turned into be like almost a fictional story. So I think it depends on the approach in which you take.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ro. Samet, how about yourself? When you were writing and putting real people's names in there and all that.
What I did was I listed or used the names of real people that were positive. For example, when I talked about how my brain surgeon said, of course, I believe in God, and how the oncologist said, I don't do anything without the big man upstairs, I used their names. But for the doctor who told me there is no God, for the doctor who told me they can calculate my days, I did not use their names. So if it seemed like it was something that was negative, because I didn't want to write anything negative. I didn't want to put anyone in a negative light in my book. So I just choose not to use the names of people. I may have said the doctor or a friend when I talked about the cancer scarves. I didn't use, but the things that were positive and were supportive as to what I was doing, those names I used.
Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff. How about you, Sally? Have you thought about that?
Yes, well, in my book, I didn't want to say any negativity, like the names of some people who were trying to hurt me. So, but the one, like I put Dr. O. I didn't use his whole name, but I did give an initial. He was very positive. And then Dr. B, who was a neurologist, that's what I did. Now, the other people, I just didn't say their names or anything like that.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Interesting. Lizelle, you still there, or did she click off?
I'm here.
Okay, you are? Oh, there you go. Okay. Very good. How about you? When you thought about using real names and all that, how did you handle that?
Well, like with this book here, I didn't want to do it because I said, oh my gosh, I'm here in America. Who will save me? I don't have family here. If he tend to get violent, or, you know, for me putting the type of person he was in the book, I was kind of like afraid of my safety.
Yes, gotcha.
Of doing that, yeah.
It makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. I know some people let it all hang out, and I think Ro mentioned it. Some of the big stars are encouraged to be as provocative and, you know, revealing as possible because they're trying to sell millions of books. Let's talk about that for a minute. You know, how important is it for you to sell your books, to really get out there? And also, what have you learned in the process of trying to market your book to a wider audience? Ro, you've had books out, and I'm going to ask, Samet to jump in here as well. Her book is doing well. How about you, Ro?
I was saying, being a fictional writer, I was always torn toward whether I wanted to stay indie or go traditional. I pitched several of my books to traditional publishing companies, and they liked them. There was one point where one of the publishers had asked me if I could change some things in my book, that they would have a bigger interest. It would create a better selling point. It was a story where it was about police brutality, and the focus of it was God can soften our hearts. This is something that, you know, there could be forgiveness found. And that's what the story was about. And the individual I was talking to told me that it was very unbelievable. And I was like, I'm not changing the story. So I just kind of let that one go. And then there was another time where I pitched a book, and it's historical Christian romance, where I was told, like, okay, we need more open bedroom scenes. I was like, no, we really don't, so it was like I can hand my book to my pastor or my pastor's wife without any, like, oh, I don't want them to read this. And those are the kind of stories that I want to write. I love to write romance, but I want to write it where God wins.
All right.
So, it's harder to sell that kind of romance if you don't have, like, take your clothes off and throw each other on the floor kind of stuff. And I'm not doing it.
Okay, very good. Say, man, about yourself.
With me, it's not that important that I sell my book. I'd like to sell it because I'd like to break even with my investment. I'm more interested in selling my message.
Okay.
I'm not looking to make money. If I make money along the line, fine. But to me, it's more about my testimony. God told me to open my mouth, and I have been really back and forth. I'm self-published, and of course, I had to invest some money into editing and formatting a book and things like that. So I do have an investment in there, and I've attended some book fairs and things like that that cost money. But I'm not looking to be a bestseller or a millionaire. I'm not interested in that. I mean, if it comes, fine. But mine is more about I'm alive.
Okay.
I'm alive, and I know there's a lot of people who do give up. Even like listening to Sally's story, Rose's story. It's really more about my message getting across. I really feel like I get more of a reward right now when people say, I read your book and I cried. I really felt what you were saying. That's more of a turn on right now, but it'd be nice to make a couple of dollars, but that's not at the forefront.
Okay, very good. Gazelle, how about yourself? I know you've had success with your books.
Yes. I must say the last book that I'm in, it was a combination of authors that came together and put Woman Right Now. That's the name of the book, Woman Right Now. So we had to write about trauma situation in our lives. I wrote about my 19-year-old getting pregnant. So that was like a trauma for me because, hey, what am I to do? Your 19-year-old get pregnant and you are to, help her when you try to speak to her and, she didn't listen. So, but that one sold, but the one that I have, Welcome to America, it's slow, so that's how it goes.
Okay, very interesting.
And Nate, I want something I wanted to ask you. What I guess successful is defined differently by different people. I'm not even sure, because I've never written a book, because I never really was in the circle of authors. I'm not even sure, honestly, what successful is. My book has been out for about 2.5 months, and I've sold probably close to about 500 copies. So I don't even know what I should be looking for. I don't know what's good, what's bad, how many books should a person sell a year, how long, I don't know, how long do books sell? I'm sure that when they first come out, they're hot, but I would assume that as time goes on, then it kind of dwindles down. But I don't know what my expectations even should be.
Well, my experience, if I just use my experience, I sell a million books a month, so I can't speak to anybody else. But anyhow, so that's a joke. But anyhow, no, listen, it's just you mentioned investment, and so and Ro mentions indie authors, which is independent writers, which all of us are, right? And so, cool. It all depends. If you're making your money back, I know some people get out there and they really go to the bookstores and they sell their books and that kind of thing. The problem with bookstores, of course, is sometimes they want to take 45 to 50% of the profit. So that's a nice thing to have. I know one person in particular, she's doing very well, and she enjoys the camaraderie, meeting people, the whole bit. But she'll tell you too, she's not making any money. She's selling a lot of books, but the bookstores take half the money, And then to travel to there, you have to do that yourself and all that. So it all depends. It all depends, as you said, what you're looking for. If you want to get your word out, get your message out. I've gone to the Harlem Book Fair where people literally just gave books away because they wanted people to read the book, get the message out, that kind of thing. So I'll never forget sitting in Philadelphia at the Black Writers Conference, and the one brother was sitting right in front of me. He asked a question, and the people, the panel was stock full of, the industry's best. And this white female, she says, "Oh my goodness." She said, "Wait a minute." She said, "I think I know you." And he said, "Huh?" And she said, "Aren't you so and so?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you're the #1 children's author in the world." She said, "Oh my God, this is so and so, so and so." He said, "Well, that sounds great." He said, "But where's my money?" He said, "Because I don't know who's talking about books." He said, "I mean, the industry takes so much of your money from you." He said, "Someone told me they were in China and my book was selling in China." He said, "I didn't know my book was even in China," and stuff like that. So it's really all relative. But I'm gonna ask Ro to jump in here because I know Ro has done a lot of work in this area as well. Ro, what would you say?
I agree with what Sam was saying. It all depends on what you feel is your level of success. Like I've been working at writing now, I guess, for close to 15, 16 years. I've won 6 literary awards. I've got lots of short stories written in literary journals, online literary journals, magazine reviews. I was asked to be the chief and editor of a magazine here. So there's a lot of ways that you feel like you've become successful, but I really do believe it comes down to the message that you want to share. And that's what it's been for me. I've had an opportunity to do theater and tie my books into my theater. And that's where I've been the most successful. But the thing about it is I've just always wanted to share history, and about how history is something that always comes back around again, in the particular history of African Americans and our struggles that we have gone through. So I always believe my success is when I'm dead and gone. I always tell my daughter, I said, before you throw anything away, I'm going to give you all my passwords and everything. So I've got stories. I've got a whole wicker basket here full of notebooks. I plan on being, I want to be successful while I'm alive, but I said, I plan on being the next Zora Neale Hurston. She was not really discovered until Alice Walker found her unmarked graveside in Pensacola, Florida. And that's when all of her literature and everything she wrote just blew up, and her legacy lives on, so how it says in the Bible about we might not see it in our time, but that time is coming, but that's my legacy I leave to my kids. I always say I was a sharecropper's daughter, and I'm always the storyteller in my family. It's like my Theo always says to me, "Oh no, there's a story coming. I know there's a story." So that's part of it is me just wanting to leave a legacy.
Excellent. Sally, I'm going to ask you to jump in here as well. I know your book is still in the process, but you're writing the book nonetheless. What would you hope to have? What would success look like for you?
Educating individuals and just really letting them know what is going on, and just encouraging everybody to learn more about your medical conditions or not medical conditions, whatever you've been diagnosed with. Just take the time to learn. And doctors don't know everything. I want to help. That's the main thing I want to do, just because as much as I suffered and nobody really believed, they just assume, well, you need to listen to the doctor. You need to do this. You need to do that. No, that's not always the best thing. So I really want to help.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the brother's name. It's John Weidman, I think it is, out of Pittsburgh. He said something once. He said, they call me a best-selling author. They always say that. He said, and I probably sold about 35,000 books. He said, my book, came out. And he said, but my book is more of considered like a textbook, but I've gotten all these accolades and awards and this and that. He said, but I probably sold about 35,000. Then along comes Elin Harris, I think it was. And Elin Harris was a gay male who wrote from that perspective. And he wrote very provocative novels. And he just took off. He was selling millions of copies. He said, and it's amazing. I look at Elin Harris, who is a very popular, pop writer, not a fiction writer. He said, he's selling millions. He said, I sold 35,000. They give me all kinds of accolades and this and that. He said, so it's relative because in his world, he was very successful. He's an academician. Is that what they call him? He's an academic. He said, but, Elin Harris is not writing for that. He's writing for the popular. So he's very popular. He's very good, and he's since passed on that. So again, you're absolutely right. It all depends on you, the author, what you're looking for. If you just tie dollars and cents to it, you'll never be happy because you always want more and more and more and more and more. And I always remember what what's his name, Les Brown said. Les Brown was the hottest speaker in the country at one time and one of the hottest still. And he said, but there was this guy who was at this conference, and this guy had people galore. He said, oh my goodness, he said people were lined up buying his book. And so he said he wanted to know what this guy's secret was. He said, because I'd never heard this guy before. He said, but obviously the people did. And the guy said to him, he said, Les, you are absolutely the best. He said, here's the problem though. He said, you don't get off the stage. He said, when you're talking, he said, you give everything, man. He said, I give them enough to wet their whistle. He said, and then I come out and sell my book. He said, well, I was out here selling books while you were still in there giving a speech. He said, so it all depends on what you're looking to do. He said, you love that stage, and that's good. He said, and people love you. He said, but if you want to sell it the way I'm selling, you have to have a mechanism that says, okay, this is about me selling books. He said, and quite frankly, I'm about selling books. He said, you're about giving out a message. He said, and there's nothing wrong with that. He said, you just got to know what you're trying to accomplish. And Les Brown had to, does anyone know Les Brown? He's the guy that was educably mentally retarded. He graduated from high school, but with that designation, he was a janitor. And then one day he said, how come I can't do? And he began to just tell stories. People love the way he talks. So he literally started telling stories about his family. Could not read or write. He married, what's her name? Gladys Knight later on in life. They were married for, a number of years. And then he said, I had to go into a room and just literally read to myself. I had to say it out loud, though. He said, I read one word at a time. But no one knew that. I'm standing on the stage talking like crazy, breaking things down, and people love me. He said, I'm making $15 million a year just talking. He said, I couldn't write no book. But guess what? People wrote books. Ghostwriters like Ro is, were helping them write his books. They just took his words and they put it into a book. So he started writing books by just talking the books into existence. Isn't that something? Powerful stuff. But listen, one of the things I always try to do is make sure that we do not go over our time. It is 9 o'clock on the nose. And so I need to say goodbye to everybody. But I really want to thank Samuel George, the author of A Few Are Chosen. Is that right? A Few Are Chosen. And then also Ro Brady, the author of many books. And her poetry book is Fried Green Tomatoes and Okra, something I don't know. What is it, Ro?
Fried okra and green tomatoes.
Fried okra and green tomatoes. Also, Lazille Powder. Thank you so much for being on. And your name of your book is?
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America.
And Women Right Now. All
right, fantastic. And then also Sally, I want to thank you so much for coming on as well, Sally Johns. And you can see her, by the way, on Life Esteem this coming Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Of course, you're going to be up to watch it. And it's on Channel 21, WHP TV 21. And also, you can see on my Facebook page and many others, Sam at George's interview along with her husband. And they did a wonderful interview as well. And that's on Life Esteem as well. God bless you all. Thank you so much for coming on. And hope to see you tomorrow at Kwanzaa. Okay?
Yes, I'll be there.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Oh, I get to meet you in person. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
right.
I'm coming. The train leaves here at 7. So I'll be there.
Yay.
Come on down. Sally, I hope you can make it out.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, my
Okay.
son and I, we will be there. He's excited.
Fantastic.
He wants to see Kwanzaa,
Okay.
have a good time. So I told him we'll be
Sam, you're going to be there as well, right?
Yes, in fact, I just called today and got a vendor table, so I'll be selling my book as well.
all right. I
Fantastic.
want to read it.
God bless you all. It's
I'm
gonna be a
coming with the
party.
paintings.
I
It'll
want
be
to
a party.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
God bless
Brother Chris.
everybody. Have a
Good
good
night
night.
now. Everybody
Night.
have a great time. Okay. Good night.